Welcome to Let's Be Perfectly Queer,
a queer podcast creating space to talk about all things queer.
My name is Archie.
And I'm Katie.
Questions of how you identify, seeking answers to clarify. Whether you're queen
or somewhere in between, let's be perfectly queer.
And on today's episode, it's a little bit different. So we're going to look at some small bite-sized topics rather than a big episode today. And I'm sure that a lot of you listeners have actually missed Katie's voice because you haven't heard it in well over a month now. But yeah, so welcome back, Katie.
Thank you. After my long hiatus.
So some of the topics we'll be looking at today are homophobic language in schools, queer Aussie animals, and Aunt Petunia is gay, just to mention a few. But let's get straight into it.
Okay.
So the first topic, it came up on my newsfeed. That's where I get a lot of my LGBT news or topics or things that I think are interesting to talk about. And I saw on the Gaby's Instagram this post and I wanted to do a bit more research. So the title is How the US Military Accidentally Turned San Francisco into a Gay Capital.
Oh, okay.
So during World War II, the US military began discharging servicemen suspected of being gay. Homosexuality at the time was classified as a mental illness, and when the military personnel were given discharge, or a blue discharge for dishonourable discharge, it not only formally outed people to their friends and family, but also cut their access to military benefits. Thousands were discharged because of the ban on queer service members and sent through the port of San Francisco. Rather than return to face their families and places where homosexuality was criminalised or dangerous, many chose to stay and settle in San Francisco. So San Francisco had also become a wartime boomtown filled with young workers, artists, and migrants, creating an environment where queer people could find community more easily. Though apparently the city already had a legacy and reputation as a hotbed for sex and gender nonconformity in the 1800s. By the late 1940s and 1950s, this unexpected migration helped transform neighbourhoods like North Beach and later the Castro into main centres of LGBTQ plus life. The city gave LGBTQ plus folk a sense of freedom from judgment they'd not likely receive at home due to their sexuality. The city also earned its Gay Capital of the USA status in a 1964 Life magazine issue. Ironically, a policy meant to force gay personnel out of the military ended up concentrating them in one city, helping turn San Francisco into a global gay capital. Did you know that San Francisco was a global gay capital?
I didn't know it was a global gay capital, but I did know that they're well renowned for pride as well as being very accepting of the queer community. Especially like when you've described San Francisco in past and the fact that you've gone there, as well as friends who've described it. They've said it was such a very accepting place to live and really beautiful with the type of people that are there. So that's quite amazing in a way. And
with San Francisco, I think it's the Castro was the main queer or gay district. But what I was surprised about when I went there, it was very gay, like gay men. Like, you know,
Explain
it's not
to me what you
it's
saw.
not like when we have gay bars in Perth, it's like men and women, you know?
Yeah.
They were kind of segregated as like, this is mainly a gay men bar, or there wasn't really like a lesbian bar or that kind of stuff. It was mainly that. I think there was one bar that was kind of both. This was a while ago now. Yeah, so it did feel very different in that regard, but there was a lot of stores with a lot of pride merch and all that kind of stuff, and yeah.
Do you think we only don't have that in Perth because we don't have a big enough gay community to facilitate needing a bar just for lesbians or a bar just for gay men?
I think so. I think the population in Perth definitely plays an impact. I'm not sure if there are any around Australia that are specifically just for lesbians or just for gays, and I could be completely wrong. I'm happy for someone to, correct me there, but it's not something we really see here that I'm aware of. But it could be we don't have the kind of, not the need for it, but we don't have the market for it, possibly, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's interesting because when we went to Japan, there was specifically like gay men clubs and
there was even trans bars.
Yeah.
There was FTM bars, like specifically for trans men as well, where others were welcome, but it was literally known as I think it's called FTM bar. So it's quite interesting but in Japan, it is a whole different kettle of fish because they've got those very, very small bars which seat like 6 to 8 or, 5 people, where in a place like Perth, that would not work. The rent would be out of control. You're not going to make it back. So it's quite interesting with the different cultures and what kind of bars and places come out.
Yeah. I wonder how San Francisco's going now with the current climate in the world?
That is a good question.
Yeah. If there's anyone out there from San Francisco, send us a message. We're intrigued to hear from you.
Please do. So this one isn't queer related, but it kind of relates, Like, I thought it was interesting, and I thought that our listeners might find this interesting. So history got it wrong about samurais.
Okay.
So this is not particularly queer, but I wanted to share this. It was shared by Every Woman Is Worth Instagram, and I did a bit of research as well. So every time I've said one of these places, Instagram or whatever, I've gone and done my own research to make sure that it's correct, because I'm not just going to believe a post on Instagram. That's not how I work.
Such a good teacher.
You got to find your sources and make sure there's more than one
reputable reference.
Exactly. So apparently history has gotten things a bit wrong when it comes to samurai in Japan.
Okay.
For centuries, the samurai have been portrayed as male warriors only. But new research and artifacts revealed by the British Museum tell a different story.
Oh.
DNA from Japanese battlefields reveal up to 30 to 50% of samurai warriors were women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Up to 50%?
Yeah, up to 50. So 30 to 50% of samurai warriors were women.
Goodness me. Did it go into them having the same kind of garb, like the same kind of...
It didn't go into that much detail, no. But samurai women were trained, armed, and part of the warrior class. Some defended castles, led households, and fought when needed. The idea that samurai were only men with swords is largely a modern myth. According to the exhibition, the most celebrated female samurai was Tomoe Gozen, who died in 1247, and whose exploits are the subject of the tale of Heike. She was reported to have ripped off the head of samurai Uchida Sakura Leoshi, who tried to capture her for ransom.
Wow.
Cool, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder what led to the representation only being male. Is it the westernization of it and the patriarchy associated with strength is notoriously foreseen as a male attribute?
Right, because, I saw recently a TikTok about a woman who, she got a lot of backlash. She had the title, if my son told me that they were gay or wanted to wear makeup or lipstick, and just throwing stuff towards the screen, like they're throwing it at the kid, which is very, very toxic and abusive. And so then a lot of the comments there were like, well, did you know makeup, nail polish, lipstick were originally made for men. Heels were made for men. It is the society that have decided that it's not masculine when they were products made for men. So it's quite interesting, back in a time like 1247, about the different roles that men and women played in society and how over time that has changed.
Yeah, completely. It's also interesting because you had female pirates. There were heaps of them out there and well known and documented as well.
But in the movies, we don't see that. And I do wonder if that stems back from the Shakespeare times. We recently spoke about Shakespeare and how men were only allowed to act. And so you didn't see that many women actors on stage, and the men played the women and so on. And is that kind of like a domino effect from that era? I was like, well, the men have the main roles. They're going to play most of the characters on screen because of that kind of knock-on effect. And so I'm wondering if that's why, you have all of those men playing pirates.
It's misinterpretation, isn't it? It's you see something and whatever it is perceived as, you're like, oh, is this how it's meant to be if you're not involved in that conversation or that situation?
Exactly.
And then this is where this is why history is so important, but then also so subjective depending on where you were in the world, what you're looking at, what climate, because no matter what, it is just a story that has multitude of different angles that you can look at.
And I do remember when I was in school, we were taught that if we read a news article, if we read anything that like a book, we have to look at the time that it was written to see where the influences come from. And I don't think this next generation of students and young people coming through are being taught all those kind of things because they're overloaded with information. But instead of actually looking at the time and that kind of stuff, like some are, but not a lot of them are. So it is quite interesting that that's how I was taught. When you read a text, no matter what it is, when you watch a movie, you need to see it from the frame of when it was made and look at what was happening in society, what was happening in the country that it was made in, and so on.
Yeah. And going back to the samurais, it's very interesting that these women samurais could also be heads of household, which makes you think that there wasn't this imbalance as much as is perceived about, women always just catering and catering for men and being the ones who cared for the children, that we actually had women running households in Japan.
Where did it all go wrong?
Yeah.
What happened in history to make it all go so
Oh,
wrong?
my darling.
So the next topic is homophobic language in schools. And I've said this before. So if you were to guess the percentage of kids in schools who hear homophobic language, what percent would you guess hear it?
Oh, hear it?
Yeah.
Probably 90%.
Close. This is not something from Australia. This is from Just Like Us UK. So I think that if it was Australia, it would be a lot higher. Let's be completely honest.
Yes.
So in the UK, 78% of primary school students hear homophobic language. Primary.
Primary school.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention that. But yeah, primary school students.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
Yeah. And so Just Like Us UK is an LGBT young people charity. And this is primary school. So for those who don't know what primary school is, I'm not sure what it is in the UK, but in Australia, it's from the age of 12 and below.
Yeah.
So I think some countries include kinder and pre-primary in that. Some don't. Some start straight from year 1. So in Australia, from year 1, I think you're 6?
Yes.
And so, yeah, to hear that language, 78%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Did it go into what kind of language is most prevalent? Or
No.
Okay.
It didn't go into that. But in a survey of 31,875 pupils across the UK, including 4,307 primary school students, a vast majority responded that they heard homophobic language, while for secondary students aged 11 to 18, so that must be UK, so that's 11. That's so young. Oh, yeah, I guess it's the same with Australia. What am I talking about? We're 11 too. That increased to 80%.
Yeah.
Contributing factors included gender stereotypes and social media, and have said they have seen it trending on TikTok.
Yeah.
Which is very sad.
Yeah.
And I know there's been a lot of debate, and those who are listening now who are from around the world, in Australia, it is now kids cannot be on social media if you are under the age of 16. And a lot of people, are up in arms about it. But when you see these kind of statistics, it makes sense, because kids are their minds at that age, specifically 11 to 18, are so malleable.
Yes.
They're so vulnerable that hearing this kind of information can do a lot of harm.
Mm.
And there was things I've been saying to you for the last few, while I was still teaching, not full time, but basically full time, the fact that the language has gotten worse.
Yeah.
And it was around the time of COVID and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. And so there's just having all this homophobic language from other creators, from other people, and it being normalized.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well, is that we can only govern as much as a parent, you can really only govern as much as you can control. You can't control social media.
No.
And also there's the added element of social media is not just Australia. It's all the other countries out there. Even though Australia is technically, and I would like to go forward and say it's quite an open country where it celebrates people who are queer. Maybe celebrates a bit too much. But anyway, it embraces its queer community to a certain level. And then you get all this drive and rhetoric from other countries who are very derogatory to the LGBTQIA plus community. Mm-hmm. And then that, because it ends up being trending propaganda, is what kids see constantly coming onto their feeds. Yeah. It becomes normalized, and then that's what they start actually sprouting, this kind of stuff. So I totally understand the ban, because as a parent, how are you meant to go up against social media? And I think it's empowered parents in Australia to be like, all right, well, this isn't my choice. Thankfully, they don't have to be the bad guys. The bad guys are the government. It helps the parents actually take control of the situation and be able to foster their kids to make good choices and to know what this actually means. That by saying some of these disgusting, slide comments sometimes, that can actually be quite subtle, but it's subtle homophobia that still means exactly the same thing than somebody who's out there screaming the F word.
Yeah.
So it's good in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, and people forget that this whole social media ban was started by Fitzy, the radio host, because of, I think he was hearing conversations with his kids or something like that. So he had a personal vendetta with social media and how toxic it can be and how addictive it can be as well, because it is an addiction. And so, so that's how it started. And I know that some people were really angry, but then there's other countries who've actually celebrated and recognized that what Australia is doing is really good, and they're paving the way forward. I think, social media, it needs to be learned. And the thing is, this all could have been prevented had parents had a child safety count. All that kind of stuff. But
what's a child safety count?
On Instagram, it's like you had control of the account. Like they could only have it attached to your account, so you could go in and have a look at any time. So if there's any bullying or anything like that. And people don't realize as well, as a school, if bullying is happening on a social media app, the school can't do anything about it if there isn't proof, or if it happens outside the school grounds. Like they may be two kids in the school, but it is so beyond that. All that a school can do is say, here is the e-safety commission, and take it forward, or say you can go to the police. We can't do this because this is a social media platform.
Yeah.
It's like saying, hey, we need both your phones and we need to see all your texts.
Yeah.
And so then some parents are getting quite angry at that, but it's a social media app.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, what the school can control is moving kids from certain classes.
Yep.
But that doesn't stop it from happening on social media. If anything, it can put fuel on the fire. So it actually doesn't matter what the school can control, because even if it goes to the nth degree, even if you were to actually suspend somebody, it doesn't stop the social media bullying happening.
And if a parent doesn't take the phone away, they're still going to have their phone and they're still going to bully.
Yeah.
And I do know that it is harder for those students who are in regional Australia who want information, like those young LGBT kids or young kids of different cultures who are trying to seek belonging. And I do get that, which it's unfortunate that this has affected them in that way. But there is a whole other side of why they've had to go to this extreme. There is two sides, and I know there's a lot of people arguing that the social media ban is wrong and for those kind of kids. And I do feel for those young 12, 13, 14-year-old LGBTQ kids in rural Australia who don't feel like they have that connection anymore. Unfortunately, they're the ones paying the price for those people who have been doing the wrong thing, for those kids who, you know, the parents who haven't been looking at the kids' social media and seeing what they're doing. And some parents are like, oh, they're due their privacy. I didn't have my privacy until I was 16.
Oh, God, no.
Like, if there was a computer, it was out in the open and everybody had access to it, because that's just how it was.
Yeah, completely. It's not like you had separate accounts. It was all one computer, one account. All the history was your joint history.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good luck. But it's quite funny, just staying on this topic for 2 moments, is that it's similar to the reaction of what happened at Port Arthur. When we had that horrible incident at Port Arthur in which many people were killed at gunpoint.
Yep.
And then we had the gun ban in Australia, which is incredibly successful on all counts. It's the same thing, is that we've had this mass bullying and outcomes that have led to deaths of our youth, that the only thing that we can do is have a large-scale, huge impact on something that is incredibly serious, and we can only ever see the outcome. There's pros and negatives to everything, but I feel like in the next 5 years, we're going to see more positives than negatives.
And I think it's hopefully going to make a massive improvement on students' attention in schools. Not worrying about their phone, not worrying about social media, not constantly having these little bites of information, which is ruining the way that their brains, well, not ruining, but impacting on how much information they can take. And they're constantly needing that dopamine. And so I do hope that's going to make a massive, massive change there as well. So many students said they heard it as a joke.
See?
But Laura Mackay, the chief executive of Just Like Us, says homophobic language should never be dismissed as just a joke, because we know it has real life consequences, impacting the self-esteem and feelings of shame among LGBTQ plus young people and those from same-sex families. We are worried about young people reporting. There's a rise in games aimed at children on TikTok where gay is being used as a derogatory insult. And just leading into this, I don't watch the AFL that much anymore. I just don't have time for it, and my team sucks. So anyway, but there was a player from, I think it was St Kilda, and they were given a ban for a homophobic slur. And this is the second time they've done it. The AFL made this big thing about the fact that if you say a derogatory, racist, homophobic slur, you get a max penalty and then it increases. And so he was given an increased penalty of 6 games or whatever it was, or 6 weeks, and then it was dropped because they said his mental health and all that kind of stuff. And so then they got away with it, and the AFL are getting ripped over the coals because they did the same thing last year.
If his mental health is so poorly, he shouldn't be playing football at all.
Yeah. And so the stress and the mental health. So then I think it was either gone down to 3 or 4 weeks from the 6 weeks. And so it doesn't set the precedents for the next generation, because there's so many young kids watching this, seeing that that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Australia's queer animals.
Right. All I can think about is those penguins in Melbourne.
This information comes from, remember one passed away.
Yeah.
This information comes from Oz Conservation Foundation. So in captivity, same-sex hookups in female koalas outnumbers straight ones 3-1.
Sorry, the word hookups for koalas.
So they're not relationships, they're just hookups.
How do we know? They could
That's
be
what they say. I don't know.
situationships.
Ask the Oz Conservation Foundation. I don't look at koalas. So, and then 1 in 4 swan couples are 2 dads.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Researchers observed some pink and grey galahs stuck with same-sex relationships regardless of how many eligible opposite-sex birds were around.
Do you know why I reckon for pink and grey galahs?
Why is that?
If anyone's ever seen them, the only way that you can tell the difference is from the eyeballs, because the female has red eyes, whereas the male has brown eyes. It's only when they actually mature. I could be wrong. Someone out there tell me I'm wrong. But anyway, I've learnt this as a kid. It's horrible. The females have red eyes, the males have brown eyes. It only happens in maturity, which is like at 2 to 5 years or something of a pink and grey galah. There's a high chance that all these birds are just out there having sex with each other and have no idea what gender they are. So it doesn't really matter, does it, at the end of the day?
All clownfish are born male.
Yeah, I knew that.
And the dominant one in a group becomes female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finding Nemo, man.
If she disappears, the next male transitions.
Yeah, damn straight.
So the human race has got it wrong. If clownfish show dominance by transitioning to females, the most dominant one becomes female. Why do we have a patriarchy and not a matriarchy?
Same with spiders, though, if you think about
Is
it.
it?
Yeah, most spiders, the female is the dominant, the larger one, and then she eats her mate.
Oh.
Because the male's just around there to procreate.
That's
Yeah,
so
sorry,
interesting.
guys, we don't care about you.
But then also what's interesting, you know, how people say that transitioning isn't science. Bloody clownfish can transition.
Yeah, I think there's actually a joke in Finding Nemo about that as well.
Oh, is there?
Yeah,
Went straight over my head.
yeah, all of us when we were younger.
Talking about queer animals, a new animal study published has found that 59 non-human primate species engage in same-sex activity. The primates include bonobos, chimpanzees, and macaques?
Macaques?
What's a macaque?
A macaque is a small monkey.
Oh, a macaque.
Yeah, they're really cute.
So the study was published in the Journal of Nature, Ecology and Evolution on the 12th of January 2026 and is the most comprehensive review of non-human primate same-sex behaviour to date. The findings challenge some common assumptions about the purpose of sex in the animal world, suggesting it plays a broader social role.
Yeah.
For the study, 491 primate species were reviewed in terms of male-male and female-female interactions, which predominantly involved mounting, ventral or ventral dorsal, as well as genital touching and fellatio. Same-sex interactions of a non-sexual nature were not counted to avoid ambiguity. It was found that...
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just can't. That used to be still thinking about koalas hooking up.
That was the previous story. We've moved on to apes, or primapes. It was found that same-sex behaviour was more common when animals were subjected to harsh environmental conditions, were at risk of being eaten, or when competition for resources was higher.
It's trauma bonding.
Yeah, I guess so. And the species needed social cohesion to survive. It's also more common in social groups with strict hierarchies, where sex could help individuals manage competition, build alliances, and avoid intertropical aggression.
Oh, so like Survivor.
I guess so. All right, next topic. Budapest mayor charged for Pride March. Did you see this?
No, I didn't.
So we spoke about this, I think it was late last year, in Hungary, where we spoke about the nationalist government passing a law banning LGBTQ pride marches. Well, the Budapest mayor, Kirby Korachony, damn it, I wrote it down like phonetically and I still
Did
don't.
you?
Yeah, I'm doing my best. Kirby Korachony was charged by prosecutors for his decision to let the Budapest Pride go ahead anyway.
Oh, how brilliant.
So in January 2026, prosecutors filed charges against him, accusing him of violating Hungary's assembly laws by organising and leading a banned rally.
Good on him.
They're pushing for a fine without a trial. This comes months after the June 2025 marches, but the mayor is standing by his actions, calling himself a proud defendant for defending freedom and LGBTQ plus rights.
Oh, that is so brilliant. I was actually talking about this to my mum recently in regards to Hungary becoming more of a democracy.
Yeah.
And how it's standing for the people more. And it seems that, I mean, if we've got a mayor who's actually a mayor? Yeah. A mayor who's actually standing up and having these actions, not just words, that are supporting the people. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Does Kirby have a gender? So, you know Kirby, the little pink little
Squish ball.
creature?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kirby's official gender is generally considered unknown.
Yeah, because he's a ball. I mean, sorry, it's a ball.
Or gender neutral in Japan, often described as youngster. Though Western media uses he, him pronouns, in Japanese media, Kirby is described with gender-neutral terms and pronouns. Kirby is described as a unique, genderless blob. They have no defining characteristics of female or male.
It's because it's the same as Ditto. Ditto wouldn't say that.
Good question. I need to check my app and see if Ditto actually has a gender.
It shouldn't do. I mean, Ditto can be anything they want to be, which kind of sounds quite inspirational, to be honest. But I would imagine Kirby is the same. Yeah. Some things just don't need a... Oh, you know how there's a lot of languages that...
Well, I've got that in here that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Yeah. So just quickly, queer history you probably didn't learn in school. Archaeologists have discovered a 7,000-year-old skeleton in Hungary that's challenging what we thought we knew about gender in the Stone Age. In a study published in the American Journal of Biological Anthropology, researchers looked at 125 skeletons from 2 cemeteries in eastern Hungary, dating all the way back to about 5,300 to 4,650 BC. They weren't just looking at how people were buried, they also analysed the bones themselves to see what kind of physical activities these people regularly did. By combining burial positions, grave items, and the wear in the skeletons, they were able to build a picture of gender roles in that society. And that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Because while most people followed expected patterns, men buried one way, women another, there were some clear exceptions. In fact, researchers found that 2 male skeletons and 5 female skeletons were buried in ways that didn't match what was expected for their biological sex, including a biologically female skeleton buried in a typically male way, with tools and physical markers suggesting they lived a life associated with male roles. Researchers believe this shows that even way back then, societies may have had a more complex understanding of gender than we often give them credit for. Maybe gender roles and societal roles isn't a new thing.
Of course
it's been around forever, and people are just assumed that it's black and white when there's definitely some grey and purple in there too.
But that's the whole thing, is that if you are living a lifestyle and doing things that you just happen to be good at, the things that you happen to be good at might not be generally the things that you technically, quotation marks, should be doing according to society norms.
Yeah.
Like, some people are made to forage. Some people are made to hunt. Some people are made to do more complex mathematical things.
Like I was sporty as a kid, but I could not throw to save myself. Like,
could you not?
Cricket, basketball, my arms aren't made to throw, but I can kick.
Yeah.
And I can run, and I can sprint, and I can dive. Not dive like swing dive. I suck at swimming, but like I was always wicketkeeper or goalkeeper because I could judge and dive and do that kind of stuff. But get me to throw? Nah, couldn't do it.
Yeah, your calves and thighs are like,
yeah,
geez,
it's Asian,
Louise,
the
mate.
Asian in me. Like, but my body's just not made to throw. I just could not throw.
Yeah.
Basketball's different. Like, it's a different mechanism. But can't throw.
That's so interesting. Yeah. See, I've got monkey arms, so they can like get anywhere.
Good work with your monkey arms.
Thanks, mate. Let's continue.
Some LGBT history you might not know. One of the early pioneers of modern computing was a trans woman.
Wow.
So Lynn Conway was a computer scientist working at IBM in the 1960s, where she worked on some of the earliest creations of microchips that computers still rely on today.
Wow.
But when IBM found out she was trans and planning on transitioning, she was fired from the project. She later went on to have a hugely successful career and is now recognised as a major figure in tech history.
I mean, of course she was. If she was a figurehead in this forthcoming technological advance,
right?
And they're like, oh no, we can't let you do certain things in your private life that have nothing to do with your work life.
Right.
Goodness me. What a waste. I bet they're kicking themselves.
Oh, 100%. Also, fun little language fact, they, them pronouns aren't new at all. Singular they has always been used in English for centuries, long before people started arguing about it online. And even today, a huge number of languages around the world don't use gendered pronouns at all, which is what we're kind of talking about. And speaking of words changing over time, and the word girl actually originally meant a child of any gender.
Oh, wow.
And man used to just mean a person regardless of gender. So a lot of what we think of as a traditional language has actually shifted quite a little bit over time. And then I was looking into boy and woman, and so they all didn't mean what we have associated with them today.
Wow.
Which is quite interesting.
It's very interesting, especially if you think about like fireman or like certain words that are associated.
It's like an older person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fire older person.
Okay.
Well, because
I was just thinking.
Man meant just a person,
like,
regardless of gender, you know? What?
No, it just made me think of a person on fire that's an older person. Anyway, the way that we think is
it's very different. I've got 2 stories left, and then ancient Egypt and one very debated couple.
Ooh.
So there's evidence to suggest that queerness didn't just exist in history, it may have actually been honoured. So back in 1964, archaeologists uncovered a tomb in Egypt with the inscription, joined in life and joined in death. And inside were two men. And these two men lived during Egypt's 5th dynasty. They were both chief manicurists to the king, meaning they were of equal status and highly respected, and they were buried together. Now that alone was unusual, but what really stood out was how they were depicted. Those two men are shown holding hands, embracing, and even standing nose to nose, which in ancient Egypt art was basically the most intimate pose possible, the same kind used for married couples. But they also had wives and children.
Okay.
Their wives and children, though, were mostly shown in the background, almost like side characters. Meanwhile, these two are front and centre. So historians have debated for years, were they brothers, twins, close friends, lovers? No one fully agrees, but what is clear is that whatever their relationship was, it only became controversial thousands of years later. And their tomb was one of the largest and most beautifully decorated in the area, which suggests they were important. What do you think?
I think if they had been family, we would have tested the bones and actually interrogated it more.
Yeah.
It sounds like they had a relationship, and it sounds like
The relationships were more fluid back then.
well, also if they were people of power,
Yeah.
It's
And importance.
yeah, and importance, and why? Yeah, it's kind of like that thing of like if somebody is so fucking great
Mhm.
and they do amazing things, all the other factors of their life, why does that matter?
Yeah. And there were some people who said that they were conjoined twins because of the being close to the nose.
Yeah.
But then there were other images of them not being conjoined to the nose or anything like that. So that theory went out the window.
Also,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure conjoined twins don't even just get conjoined at the nose.
Yeah. It's just some people like, no, they're not lovers. They were conjoined twins.
Yeah. Of course.
So last story to end this one. So Aunt Petunia is a lesbian.
I have no idea what you're talking about. When you say Aunt Petunia, I think of Mrs. Bouquet.
No, Aunt Petunia from Harry Potter.
Oh, right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course she's gay. Come
Yeah.
on now. Have you seen her? There's 100%. She's obviously got a wife called Fanny or something.
Well, Aunt Petunia is a lesbian. Well, kind of. Do you know the actress who played Aunt Petunia in Harry Potter?
I vaguely know that she's been under things.
So her name is Fiona Shaw and she is a lesbian.
Of course she is. Have you seen her?
Yes, I have seen her. She came out as a lesbian in 2005 at the same time she split from her ex-husband,
Good on her.
who also came out as gay.
Oh, I love this.
Just imagine telling your husband, I'm leaving you, I realized I'm gay, and then he turns around and goes, thank God, me too. Like, I really want to know how that conversation went down. Like,
No, they 100% knew beforehand
Do
and
you
they
reckon?
got married. Yeah, 100%. There's no way that they were bonking. Like,
so
no way.
they were each other's beard.
Yeah, they were each other's beard.
So for those who don't know what that means, it's like, where you get into a seemingly what looks like a heterosexual relationship, but you're two queer people and you're just kind of doing the facade for each other.
Yeah, completely. That's 100% what's happening.
So those are some bite-sized topics and stories for today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. And you can also support the show for $1 a month on Patreon. Let us know, did you like this style of episode? Do you want more like this?
I love it how you're like panning in each direction. I'm like, there's no one here to see the arm movements.
I'm waiting for you to jump in at any time before we
sorry.
finish.
I was going to say, if you want to hear more from me, don't. You don't want to hear more from me.
I'm sure they want to hear more from you. I'm sure they've missed your voice.
Oh, bless. That was a really good episode. Thank you.
Because I've got some bigger ones coming up. Didn't do a lot of research, so that we'll have some light stuff, some not so light stuff, and coming forward.
Good balance.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a bit more of a balance, and we've had a lot of guests so far this season, as I'm sure you've seen. So thank you everybody who's jumped on board. Got a few more lined up as well over the next few episodes. But until next time, I hope that we have been
Perfectly queer.
Let's be perfectly queer.